Everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. One more look at ICP here for the day before we round out the trading period. Got a couple of hours left in the daily candle, but what we want to look at first of all is this bottoming out period here. We got a broadening wedge. You could argue that this is a falling wedge, or it's a type of pattern that's generally bullish, right? No matter how you look at it, it starts to work itself into a lower high, lower low pattern, and inevitably breaks out once it hits support. So we're going to look at some things there, kind of see if there's any support levels in the immediate proximate area. We can see we're still trading within this overall point of control, which is generally a favorable sign. Okay, so again, a lot of volume at this point. I'd be surprised if the price pulled back. However, if Bitcoin retraces, maybe a different story. Now, we're expecting Bitcoin to kind of continue higher as of earlier today's analysis. So I think the general consensus is that ICP will bottom out and bounce from here moving forward. Again, that's the general idea. We want to make sure there's other factors present. Just because I think that right now doesn't mean it's going to be the same when I'm finished analyzing it, right? So again, that's kind of where we're at there, but most cup and handle patterns play out this way, where they give you this like shadow of a doubt the price is going to pull back, and then it rips up after it breaks through its descending trend. So we'll just pay attention to that and keep an eye out. And let's take a look at the back end data too, see where we're at. In the meantime, please hit the like button, comment below. Absolutely appreciate that. Thanks again too as well for some awesome feedback from some of my community members here. We got some really good trades here with Cardano, 32%, Bitcoin 29, and 85%, almost 85%. From SUI. Those are all longs, of course, taken in the last 5 trading days. So good stuff there in that sense. ICP is one of those trades actually we took yesterday. The price is a little bit in the red right now, but the whole point of this is to use low leverage and low position size, so we ensure that we can survive this potential pullback. Again, Bitcoin was supposed to continue surging towards 60K, kind of got stopped out at 58. That's somewhat of a resistance for it. We break through that. I think ICP is going to take off. Once again, liquidation does tell us, as per usual, we got liquidation above and below the price. These are not massive concentrations. We look at larger timeframes, we can see bigger ones, and these are more relevant. So at about 660, 650, we got over 100 million liquidation there. You kind of add this together, it's more like 300 to 400 million in that little range. Same thing here as well, roughly the same, maybe about 200 million. Perhaps or a little bit more, maybe closer to 300, between 915 and 950. So even though the price hasn't hit its initial target right away, there's no reason to get concerned, because at this point, there's a lot of reasons why the price should travel to the upside here and sweep that upper level liquidation. Again, mainly because we have a nice pattern here and there's a lot of bullish convergences. I know it's kind of funny how that worked out. Somebody was trolling my channel yesterday mentioning that, oh, really nice job, we hit $9. Great analysis. Of course we didn't hit it, obviously. That was sarcasm, I get it. But the whole funny thing about that is most of the times when this happens, a day or two later, the price just takes off and goes where it needs to. The market's still in good shape. There's no indication Bitcoin's going to sell off hard. And as long as that doesn't happen, we should be fine with ICP. Okay. Keep in mind, there's this fair value gap we talked about previously, down as low as about 790. That's pretty much right where our second and third entry targets are too. And again, we have trade invalidations built into my trades when I send the signals. So you got to keep in mind, we lose that level, there's a decent chance that it's going to continue lower. Between now and then, we can presume we're going to get a bounce somewhere soon. Again, these type of pullbacks are always they always do this specifically so that way people get shaken out. Okay, so again, keep in mind, we're probably in good shape here. Again, statistical probability that we are in good shape. That's all there is to it. Is there a guarantee? No, definitely not. There's always a risk when you take a trades. And same thing with ICP as well. It's a very risky trade coin to take trades with. In fact, the last couple months have been a lot more volatile than previous months as far as its movements. They're faster and quicker in smaller periods, because again, with lower value, the percentages are higher, right? So it's good and bad depending on how you look at it. Like, we're 11 for 13. I did the math for our signals this year on ICP, and they're all doing pretty well. But yeah, we had to close out our ICP trade, our last one, actually in the red, and that's just how it goes. Sometimes you got to walk away from it. So anyways, having said all that, the whole point of mentioning that is that ICP has a lot of strength behind it. There's a lot of reasons why it should continue higher. Take a look here. We can see stochastic divergence on the daily. That's generally construed as a bearish sign. You also got to recognize too, though, that's a very natural reaction to when the price action jumps up like it did. In fact, we had 3 green candles there. You could argue that is 3 white soldiers as a candlestick pattern, and we're seeing our natural retracement. We can see we're over 0 on the TSI, which is fantastic. Closer to 1 is excellent, basically giving us good momentum. MACD is still converging. I'd much rather trust these 2 indications than stochastic divergence. Because stochastic is a false positive type of thing. It's a quick moving average, which is all well and good, but it can signal early reversals, but also give you false positives and basically invalidate that. So while this is still relevant and still a thing you want to be mindful of, until it swings down for the second time, I would not be super concerned with it. Once again, we have a lot of good volume, a lot of reasons why ICP should be able to maintain this range. If the volume starts to die up though, or dry up, we got to recognize that ICP may continue to pull back. Okay, we're going to pay attention to that. Having said that though, we see a tremendous amount of volume here in the last 24 to 48 hours versus ever before. That generally implies there's a lot of consistency in the current price range, right? That's exactly why we pay attention to our volume profile too, to make sure we know that this is a desirable place for people who want to buy this coin. Okay, and it's a good sign. 4-hour time frame, we can see TSI is dropping, MACD is diverging, and stochastic again giving us that false positive that bottom out. Now this could very well be an indication that we're bottoming out, but once more, with these other indications letting us know from a momentum standpoint, we may not have hit our bottom. We might want to presume it's going to continue lower first before it gets any better. However, we're over 50 on the RSI. While money flow index is pulling back, and that's generally unfavorable, we are above key level supports. Okay, and that to me is super important and generally a good sign. We're also above all moving averages here, and that's equally as important. In fact, we're going to go ahead and adjust our trend line here to reflect the 20-day SMA, because that's usually the trend setter that you want to follow. The 20 on the 4-hour and the daily to me are really important indications, letting us know we've shifted momentum or we've maintained our current trend. And right now we're maintaining our current trend by being above that. Now, is the sky going to fall as soon as we come over here? No, we just got to pay attention and make sure we understand that there could be a shift in momentum happening. And we'd look for other indicators to identify that. Between now and then, not really a massive concern for me. We're still honoring our ascending trend. We are working within our broadening wedge pattern here, and the descending broadening wedge pattern is bullish. You could even, tighten this up and make it look like it's a falling wedge pattern too. They all have more propensities to break to the upside than the downside. Okay? The thing we got to recognize though is that we are consistently retesting this support level here at about 837. We've tested it quite a few times. There's a chance if we continue to do that, we will effectively break to the downside. We have to recognize too as well that on the hourly here, I'm willing to speculate Ichimoku Cloud, we're traveling within, perfect. That's actually a good sign. But since we are still above the lower lead here, we're going to be in good shape. All right, so if the price continues to trend over here, we may need to have a different conversation. It may be advantageous to consider closing your position because we would have lost some of those moving averages and essentially be breaking bearish. But a lot of that hinges on Bitcoin and where it wants to go next. Because if Bitcoin continues, like when Bitcoin surged here yesterday, we saw a nice little bounce, basically a break from its falling wedge pattern previously, okay? But with us working into this descending broadening wedge, I'm not super concerned with the way things are going right now. It's looking pretty good in the overall sense still, just because again, we're honoring these trends, right? The trend is your friend until it isn't. So let's just make sure that we don't get too crazy or ahead of ourselves with presumptions. We lose these levels, maybe a different story. But once more, coins like this have a tendency of taking off at strange times, and especially if Bitcoin can maintain and break, I think we're going to be looking pretty good. But there's no doubt that ICP has been poorly responding to Bitcoin's increase, and you would expect Bitcoin's price movement to the upside to respond correctly here for ICP. It was until it didn't, right? So we have an obvious resistance range above us, and it's important to recognize that. While there is liquidation at this point between 915 and 950, there's no guarantee that it's going to get hit either, right? So again, set a stop loss for this trade if you have one open, and make sure it works within your risk tolerance. Mine's a lot different than yours probably, and there's a good chance that it may not be appropriate for you. So in that regard, I highly recommend if you're going to follow my signals, you read through our signals guide. This is just kind of a heads up on what to expect, and make sure you watch my trade alerts too. These are all very specific to the coins that I plan to take trades with, and I always give you kind of a heads up of when we're planning to take a trade, right? So that's what those are for. Make sure you enable those alerts. Future reference, you can go to Coin Calls here and adjust your signal notifications if you want to be part of that. All right, thanks again, folks. Hope you learned something today. Last but not least, join us at Bitunix and or BTCC. Excellent exchanges, link down below. They got some promotions going right now. Excellent time to register. There's no KYC or VPN for those guys. They're really awesome. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you next one. Take care.